The heading. We're going to look at now is one of the final rebuke. So let me just explain. The rebuke for a warning and rebuke and consequences that will befall the Jewish people, God forbid, for failure to observe, to keep the covenant are mentioned twice in the Torah. Once in Parshas B'chukoisai, in the end of Sefer Vayikra, then Moishe Rabbi repeats them again at the end of Sefer Dvarim. Right, the whole Mishnah Torah, Sefer Dvarim, is essentially a review. That's why it's called Mishnah Torah, a review of the Torah, of everything that of their history, many laws. He reveals many details. So he repeats the Ten Commandments there. He had the Shabbos, and he repeats the rebuke. Notably, he softens it when he repeats it as much as he can. So Ezra the scribe, when the Jews returned from Babylon after the destruction of the first Beis Hamikdash, he set up the rituals, the observance of Yiddishkeit, basically put in place the way it's observed today. Rabbinic law was set up by him and his Sanhedrin. One of the many things he instituted was that we always read, he arranged the reading of the Torah such, that we always read the Teichachah, which means the rebuke, I can use the Hebrew term now, before Shavuos and before Rosh Hashanah. So the one that is read in Parshas Vayikra, the end of Parshas Vayikra, is before Shavuos, but not the Shabbos before. It's always either one Shabbos before or two. He did not want to go directly from the rebuke into Shavuos, into Yom Tov. Similarly, he set up that we read the second rebuke, which he will in Parshas Kisovai, always before Rosh Hashanah, but always with the break of at least one Shabbos or two. Tzavim and Vayelech if they're combined, or Tzavim and Vayelech if they're not combined. Again, for the same reason, not wanting to go from the rebuke directly into Yom Tov. However, the reason, of course, why he established the reading of the rebuke is as you prepare to receive the Torah. So before that, the rebuke, the inspiration, the musa, the words of I guess rebuke, because it's the consequence of failure. Know that this is serious and prepare yourself and know the consequences. So before Shavuos, he wants that to be read, before we receive the Torah anew each year, and before Rosh Hashanah, Judgment Day. We're being judged on Rosh Hashanah, so the rebuke is there to inspire us to a deeper teshuvah. On a deeper level, on Rosh Hashanah, we're coronating God as King, so we should do so with greater sincerity and deeper devotion. All right, so the Teichacha is read twice. Now let's begin the text. So what is this Sikh of the Rebbe, this particular talk? So he's going to explain one of Rashi's commentaries on the last rebuke, first at the simple level, and then its deeper meaning. Just to point out, for those who are unaware, one of the great revolutions of the Rebbe's teachings is his revolution in the study of Rashi. Rashi wrote a commentary, the most basic commentary. Children learn it in Cheder at the age of 5 and up, because it is the commentary that renders the text at the simplest, straightforward, literal level. So it tends to be dismissed. A commentary, everybody learns that Rashi was a great tzaddik and a great scholar. No doubt it's written for the simple folk, even children. The truth is that Rashi's explanation is extremely profound, and the Rebbe opened an entirely new way of learning Rashi, of profound precision and analyzing every nuance and detail, and revealing, therefore, as a result of that kind of study, a far richer and deeper, simpler and deeper understanding of the text. And the Rebbe's Rashi Sichos, their landmark, their big revolution in the Torah world, they're called simply the Rashi Sichos. They are published in their own right, in their own set, a 5-volume set of the Rebbe's commentaries on Rashi over the years at the Fabrengen. Nothing was written, so said orally, although when edited, he added many notes. Just to give you an idea, this 5-volume set would be translated, would be at least 3 times the size. As you know, Hebrew, and then it's written very succinctly too. Just to give you an idea, that's just on Rashi. So this is one of those talks. And what it does is it's a relentless analysis of Rashi at the simple level, and in the end, as he always does, reveals its inner soul. Let's begin our journey. We've said many times, the Rebbe is saying at the Fabrengen, even though the Rashi's objective, Rashi's called first and foremost, is the Farish is Pshutum Shel HaPsukim, to explain the verses literally. Nonetheless, Kailel Pirusha, in his explanation, there's also within it, Gam also, quote, Yaino Shel Torah, the wine of Torah. Now, wine, of course, is the symbol of an inner dimension. The wine is extracted from the grape and goes through a process before it develops. It's not obvious. It's present in potential, but not obvious. Furthermore, as we all know, wine goes in and secrets come out. Wine unlocks that which is within. So within Rashi, there's the wine of Rashi, not obvious to the casual observer, but there are secrets to Torah and profound messages. Pnimius v'soidis HaTorah, the inner dimension of Torah, the secrets of Torah, are conveyed in his very words. And this is conveyed in the famous teaching of the Alter Rebbe, quoted in Hayyim Yom. I'll read it to you. The Alter Rebbe said, and before I quote it, this week, not this week that we're in, but the week that the Rebbe said the Sikha, and we're learning it now because it'll take us a month to get to the end of Elul. So Chai Elul, the 18th of Elul, is the day of the birthday of the Alter Rebbe, and the Baal Shem Tov for that matter. This week, the week of the Alter Rebbe's birthday, the week of Parshas Kisovei, when the Rebbe is delivering this talk. What's the Haftarah of the 7 Haftarahs of consolation? Kumi Oiri, arise my light. That is called Shnei Oir, 2 lights. So he's born on the 18th of Elul, always in the Shabbos of the Haftarah of Kumi Oiri. So what did the Alter Rebbe say? He's not quoting, he's just saying the famous teaching of the Alter Rebbe, and it goes like this. The Alter Rebbe once said, Rashi's commentary on Chumash is the wine of Torah. That's the origin of that statement. It opens the heart and uncovers one's essence love and essence fear of God. This is a very deep statement. The Alter Rebbe is saying that learning Chumash, and we're supposed to do this every day, the daily portion of Chumash of Rashi's commentary, and of course the Chayenu, has facilitated that study in a way that makes it accessible to everyone. Says the Alter Rebbe, when you learn Chumash with Rashi's commentary, because it's the wine of Torah, it touches the essence, the wine, the deep hidden essence of the heart, stirring an essential love and an essential awe of God. What is, I'm not going to explain that between an essential love and not an essential love. I don't mean essential as in necessary, I mean essential as in coming from essence. There's an essence love and there's a love that's more external, which I'm not going to go into now. He's saying here that the study of Rashi stirs the essence love, the essence awe. He continued the Alter Rebbe. That's Rashi's commentary where on Chumash. Rashi's commentary on Talmud. He also wrote a commentary of Talmud, making it indispensable to Talmud study. Nobody, virtually, can learn the Gemara Talmud without Rashi's commentary. So Rashi's commentary on Talmud opens the mind. So on Chumash it opens the heart. And the Talmud opens the heart, the mind, and uncovers the essence intellect. So his commentary on Chumash uncovers the etzem, the essence of the heart. And his commentary on the Talmud uncovers the essence of the mind. These are cryptic sayings which need many hours of explanation, but you do get a sense. So the Rebbe is quoting him because he's introducing what he's going to share with us. It's going to reveal at the end the wine of Torah. Furthermore, the Rebbe continues, V'yaduyim divrei Baal Shem Tov, and it's known the words of the Baal Shem Tov, they share a common birthday, which is relevant to what he's saying now. Yeah, so Shagam Yoim Eldose Shaloyu B'Chayel. The Alter Rebbe was also born on Chayel. The Baal Shem Tov was also born on Chayel. The Baal Shem Tov was born in 1698. The Baal Shem Tov in 1745, on the same day, the 18th of Elul. Lagabi Inyan Zet, no, it doesn't quote, I'll tell you what he said. The words of the Baal Shem Tov, with respect to what we're just talking about now, the light being revealed. And specifically, in brackets, Shalilodas Admurazokim Bimse, it's known what the Baal Shem Tov said about the Alter Rebbe's birth on this day, Chai Elul. And he said as follows, it's a long story, I won't tell you the whole story. I'm quoting here from the previous Rebbe. The Baal Shem Tov, on the day that the Alter Rebbe was born, inexplicably to his disciples, celebrated this day extraordinarily. It's true the Baal Shem Tov used to celebrate his birthday, and that's the beginning of the celebration of Jewish birthdays, which was a very novel thing. But on this particular year, in 1745, unbeknownst to his disciples, that day, hundreds of kilometers away or more, the Alter Rebbe was born. The Baal Shem Tov was in a state of extraordinary elation, and he made a special meal, and he said, I won't quote the whole thing because it requires explanation, but he said to his disciples, that a new soul in this Shabbos of Kumi Oiri, the Haftarah which begins, Arise My Light. That's the Shabbos of Parshas Kisavot, right? What we're talking about. He said, on this day, a new soul has come down to the world. Now, a new soul is significant because none of us are new souls. And there has not been new souls for many, many generations, millennia even. And it's very rare. We're all reincarnations. But the Alter Rebbe was a new soul that never come to the world before, because he had to trailblaze an entirely novel and new path and depth in the service of God that would break through the constraints of exile and bring redemption. That required a new soul. And he said, to the astonishment of his disciples, that on this day a new soul has come down to the world, which will illuminate the world. He's saying, this Shabbos of Arise My Light. Illuminate the world with the revealed aspect of Torah and with the hidden dimension of Torah. And he will have self-sacrifice for this new path that he will reveal, and he will be successful till Mashiach comes. And that's Chabad till this very day, continuing what the Alter Rebbe began, the great revolution, revealing the inner dimension of Torah, which all began with his birth and with the Baal Shem Tov who laid the groundwork before him. All to say, the Rebbe is saying, we're going to do this now. On this Shabbos, which is connected with the Baal Shem Tov and with the Alter Rebbe, we are going to reveal the wine of Rashi. And reveal the wine of Rashi, not just in any verse of Torah, which the Rebbe did, hundreds of instances, but on a verse of Torah of great concealment, because the verse is speaking about a rebuke. So on the surface, it's a terrible rebuke, a terrible consequence for failure to uphold the covenant, but on the deeper level, it conveys and reveals and contains the deepest blessing. Let's begin. So kach also, the words of Rashi in the rebuke, we're going to reveal the wine. Now that Rebbe adds an extraordinary point, the efshe af loimer, it's possible to say, that this phenomenon, that within the words of Rashi's commentary is a deep, mystical and profound secret. These words are underscored even more so when we're addressing, dealing with Rashi on the rebuke. There especially is contained in the words of Rashi deep mysteries and secrets that are positive. It's especially true of the rebuke. Now you would think, no, there maybe not. Elsewhere you can find some positive message. But in words of rebuke, they're rebuke. How could that be positive? Says the Rebbe, yes. The V'yes Beirish Admor Azokim L'Kotei Torah as the Alter Rebbe, again, whose birthday is being celebrated in the week that this parsha is read. The Alter Rebbe explains in his work L'Kotei Torah, which we learned Shabbos morning. Al Divrei Techacha Atzma, his famous teachings on the words of the Rebuke, he says, quote, or paraphrasing, Omnam, even though Mashmusam B'Goloi, their obvious meaning is Hepech HaBracha, the opposite of blessing, terrible, they're cursed. They're called curses, klolos. 98 curses, no less. Says the Alter Rebbe, Ava B'Cholzo is nonetheless, the Fiyah Emes, according to the truth, the depth. Listen to these words. These are the words of the Alter Rebbe. Einam rak brachas. They're nothing other than blessings. At the depth, which we're going to demonstrate. The Torah has a hidden dimension and a revealed dimension. And therefore the hidden, meaning apnimi, is the inner, banashama, and the soul, shalaklolis, of the curses. Inyan shel bracha is nihilis b'yosim, not only blessings, but very lofty blessings. So lofty, explains the Alter Rebbe, they can only be couched in the language of curses. Bedoim is similar to everything. This is a huge revolution. The Torah world is in an uproar with many things Hasidus did, including this. Tisha B'Av, the curses, the depth of it is the deepest blessing. Not like everything, friends, the Rebbe always finds a source in the Talmud. Hasidus revealed something, but it's there hinted in the story in the Talmud already before, and I'm going to share it with you. Similar to what the Gemara relates, and the end of the story, they're all blessings. Let me read to you the passage in the Gemara that the Rebbe is referring to, that illustrates this point, that even though on the surface it sounds like curses, and is, but the inner dimension is blessings. The story is as follows. Beautiful story in tractate Meretz Cotton. I'll read it to you just in translation. It's not in the text. Rebbe just refers us to it. And here's the story I'll share with you. The story is that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the great sage, the great Talmudic sage, the author of the Zohar, the most, in a sense, quoted sage in the Talmud. You know that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the distinction that he's mentioned in every perek of Mishnayos, of the Mishnah. No other sage, no other Talmud. So not only was he the outstanding Kabbalist, the Kabbalist of all time, was also an outstanding Talmudist. So here's the story. So he says to his son, it's the middle of it's a story within a story, but he tells him, I want you to go to these two sages, we'll soon meet them, and get their blessing. Who are the two sages? There's the three sages. Two, Rabbi Yonason ben Asmai and Rabbi Yehuda ben Geiri. So Rabbi Yonason and Rabbi Yehuda, they're great scholars, they're great pious men. Go receive their blessing. This is what happened. So he comes to them, and the two sages were engaged in the Torah discussion, and they noticed him after a while. And they said to him, what are you doing here? They said, the son of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. He said to them, my father said to me, go to them so they should bless you. So they heard that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said that they should bless him. This is what they said to him. May it be the will of God that you sow and not reap. That you take in and not bring out. Bring out and not take in. That your home be destroyed and let your inn be inhabited. Let your table be disturbed and may you not see a new year. So, thank you. And he leaves. When he came before his father, the son said to his father, Father, it was not enough. They did not bless me, but they caused me pain with what they said. You heard what they said, friends. So Shimba Yochai said to his son, what did they say to you? So he said, this and this is what they said. He quoted what I just told you, which I'm sure you all remember. I said to Shimba Yochai, they're all brachas. They're all blessings. And he proceeded to explain. When they said, may be God's will that you sow and not cut or reap, they meant you will beget children and they shall not die. When they said you will take in and not bring out, they meant you will bring in daughters-in-law and your sons won't die, so that the daughters-in-law will then leave. They'll remain. When they said you will bring it out and not take in, they meant you will have daughters, they will marry, they won't die, I'm sorry, and the husbands won't die and cause them to come back to you. They'll remain, you won't bring them back, they'll remain married for a long, fruitful life. When they, you following? When they said, let your house be destroyed and let your inn be inhabited, they meant it in this context that this world is compared to a temporary inn, whereas the next world is the permanent house. Thus, it brings, the meaning of the blessing is that their grave should be destroyed. That means to say, your grave be destroyed, you should not die. And thus the grave should remain unused. That's what? That is your house. Remain here. And they're in. I'm sorry, the house meaning the world to come. You shouldn't meet it quickly. You need it. You're in. Your temporary journey should be long, your life on earth. A blessing for long life here in this world. Clear? So the house, meaning the world to come, which you only enter when you're in the grave, that should be destroyed because it's not needed. And you're in, your temporary sojourn on earth should be long and fruitful. Finally, when they said, let your table be disturbed, they meant your table should be disturbed by the activities of your sons and daughters, grandchildren. It's noisy and it's messy. That's the blessing. And finally, when they said, and may you not see a new year, they meant that your wife should live long and not die, and therefore you'll not marry another wife. And that has to do with, because the first year that you marry a woman, there's certain laws that apply, you're not exempt from army service and other things you shouldn't have to deal with. There's new year laws. You're remaining married with your wife for many long years. So here's an example of the Talmud. On the surface, it sounds like curses. However, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, he was able to reveal them because Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai himself is about revealing the inner dimension of Torah. The Zohar, so he saw the inner light in the story. Now, it's not exactly the same as the Torah, because in their case, they meant it to begin with as a blessing. They couched it in these words. The Torah, the truth is, on the surface, means what it means. And it happened. But contained within it, to be revealed, is its inner essence and blessing. So let's continue. Continuing the text, now left-hand column, just before the number base. So this was an illustration from the Talmud, to this big revolution that which on the surface is curses, its inner dimension is actually a wonderful blessing. So too, the Rashi's explanation on the Rebuke, which we're going to learn. As we look at the simple meaning and analyze it carefully, we'll see that Rashi is madgish, underscoring as the severity of the curse. That's the simple meaning of Rashi. Rashi's commentary will explain how severe the curse is, as we'll see, because on the surface it doesn't seem so terrible. Rashi will explain how terrible it is. On the one hand, he'll explain the curse clearer. And how terrible it is. But at the end, this itself, this nuanced and deeper curse, then we reveal the wine. Boys, ois and milan, that these very same words come. The GALLEY says apnimi is to reveal the inner. Rashi's explanation makes us see even more. As abrachas hanayil is the great blessing contained in the rebuke and the curses and the terrible consequences described. Let's begin. What does it say? What does the verse say? What does Rashi say? We'll begin. Let me just give you how it works, friends. Again, the outline works like this. We quote the verse. We quote Rashi's commentary. The Rebbe asks a whole lot of questions on Rashi's commentary at the straightforward level, like to understand it simply, curse, which is the context. After all of that is done, then reveal the soul. So first we're going to quote the verse, Rashi, questions, answers, then the depth, then the wine. Ready? Where we go. The end of the rebuke, chapter 28, verse 68. The Torah says at the end, this is the 98th curse. God will bring you back, return you to Egypt in boats. In the way that I told you, you will no longer see Egypt. It's referring to two things. When they left Egypt and they were afraid at the Red Sea that they'll be taken captive and brought back, God says you will not see them again. Do not fear them. Furthermore, there's a commandment. A Jew may not settle and live in Egypt. That raises a whole spectrum of questions. Many great sages did. Not for now. But that's the basic law. Once we left there, we were told never go back. The curse is going back. In the boats, continue the verse. The verse continues. You'll be sold there to your enemies. Says slaves, male slaves and female slaves. The ain't koine. Nobody will buy you. Okay, that's the simple meaning. I just translated the verse. Again, you'll be returned to Egypt in boats. The journey that I've told you, you should not go back. And you'll be sold there to your enemies as servants, as slaves, and nobody will buy you. End of verse. 98th verse. Let's now understand what the verse is saying. The Pashtus movement itself understood. Since this verse appears at the end of the rebuke, this is going to be the most terrible curse. To find the rebuke. It's not understood. If you read what the scribe told them, parents eating the flesh of their own children. It's not understood. Why is this the greatest punishment? The Jews will go back to Egypt. Nobody's going to want to buy them as slaves, as female slaves. It's terrible, but not as terrible as the things described earlier. Why is this the finale? That's a question that a child will ask reading this. Why is this the last thing? That has to be addressed at the simple level. Friends, we're not going to get to the deeper soul level till way later. Let's understand, first of all, that's the whole point. First of all, the simple meaning of the verse. This is curse. It's the climactic curse. Why is this the climax? It's such an obvious, straightforward question that Rashi is compelled to explain it, which he does. What is Rashi saying? So Rashi adds, Rashi masbir al kach. By the way, you all have a chumash Rashi at home. Look it up. You'll see it. So Rashi explains, Ba'aniyos in boats. What's so terrible that you're going on a boat? as opposed to on foot. What's the difference? Rashi says, Besvina is Bashevi. You're going to go as captives. I have to tell you what it's like to be in the hull of a boat. And a slave, no, we don't know what it means. But that is not the boat. The Torah is saying as the slave. You're slaves in the boat itself. Kloima, meaning to say, they will go back to Egypt as captives. That's the terrible thing. Oh, that's what's meant by the boat. It's not simply telling us the means of transportation. It's saying how slaves in the galley. More than that, no one's going to buy you. That's not good? No, it's good news. And on the words where the Torah says, and nobody will buy you. In other words, your captors are hoping to what? To get some money out of you and sell you as slaves in the slave market. No one's going to buy you. Oh, free? No, says Rashi. Rashi, because you have been marked for death. No one's buying you. You're going to be, oh, God forbid, killed. Doesn't get worse than that. Oh. So that's the simple meaning so far. How Rashi is explaining this final curse and how terrible it is. You're going as slaves, and then no one's going to even buy you because your condition and the contempt of you and your condition physically suck that you're worthless. You're worthless. No one's going to buy you. And you're marked for death. Now look at the Rebbe's analysis of Rashi. What did we do now? We just quoted the verse. And we gave Rashi's commentary with a little bit of commentary explaining why Rashi had to comment, because the verse doesn't seem to be understood. Why is this the culminating rebuke or curse? Now we understand. Now let's go further. The Mabet Rishonir, at first glance, it appears, we're going to go deeper. I don't mean spiritually deeper, but deeper in the understanding of the curse. So what have we concluded now? Should the pasuk yeshlan beikar shtei paramios? So the verse is actually describing two punishments. Two things. Aleph, number one, Yisrael Yovel Mitzrayim Bashevi. We're going to go down there as slaves. Number two, Yigzru Alecha Hedek B'Kiloin, you'll be decreed to be killed. Now, that's the main point of the verse, right? Now, the Shar Hamilin Shebepos, the other words that the verse said, namely in brackets, Barnias are going to go in ships, in a way that I said you will never go back, but you will. And you'll be sold as slaves and servants. They're just details. They're just details of the two main curses here: slaves and death. Right? They're just details, more details, elaboration in these 2 points which the verse conveys. 2 curses here: slavery and then marked for death. How will it happen? The verse is giving us more detail. In the boats, you go back to Egypt, where I said you wouldn't go. Your captors will want to sell you, no one's going to sell you because you're marked for death. That's just describing the nature of the captivity and the end result, marked for death. That's how we would learn simply. The Rebbe rejects that explanation. But we could say, and we're going to see this next week as we analyze every nuance and letter of word of Rashi. Rashi is actually showing us through his very precise language, the Perush in his commentary, that's not 2 things mentioned, much more. Ketzat kol prat, the pasuk, every detail, Moishe adds something, Moishe davar, kesheula atzma hepachatayit, it itself on its own is terrible. Not 2 things. There's 4 or 5 things mentioned here. Not just the context of the captivity and the end result. Kidal Halan, as we will see presently, as we revisit this Rashi, analyzing every word and letter. And then at the end, the doim lakach, therefore, when we reveal the soul, the yain shel Torah, the wine, who masbir ketzav, we're going to see there too every detail. Kol inyan, Moishe adds the gedula and the greatness of the toiv and the good. Shala bracha of the blessing, Shetia, which will come out at the end. So that's where we're going now. Till now, till this point in our discussion, we learned this verse, we learned Rashi's commentary. Our conclusion is it's basically two curses. Rashi has opened their eyes to explain why it is, because you're going in ships as captives, and you get there, no one's buying you because you're marked for death. But what's the curse? The captivity and the death. The ship and they're going to want to sell you, no one's buying you. That's just giving you the story of the context of the curse and the death. No, says the Rebbe. Rashi's commentary is actually adding another almost independent tragedy. And therefore, at the end, these additional tragedies, which we do not know at this point what they are, we're going to yet to be seen, will be seen as additional blessing. Go a little bit further. You know what I say? Okay, what I want you to do for your homework. Yeah, we'll continue next week. But maybe I'll just send you the verse and Rashi's commentary if you don't have it at home, so you can see it. Verse, commentary, you remember we learned today, and then next week, we'll actually have that commentary in front of you, because we can be very analytical of it, and see how every detail, as the Rebbe is telling us, what's to come, is not just context, but an independent tragedy, suffering, and therefore greater and greater blessing at the end. So the greater we explain the suffering or the curse, the greater is going to be, therefore, the blessing. That's all to come, all right? So I'll send you the WhatsApp, Robert, you'll send it out to the list, the verse and the commentary, so you can have it in front of you next week when we analyze it, because it's very analytical, and you have to know it clearly by heart so that we understand what it is that we're saying, okay? Next week in Mitzvah. Thank you all for joining. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful time. Michael is smiling. Michael is smiling. For sure.
I'm doing